episode of Financial Freeway. My name is Dave. I'm the man rocking the Ray-Bans. Today is, looks like it's going to be a nice clear day. I think we're looking at some pretty nice average temperatures. It did get a little hot in the sun, but we're still doing pretty good. I like the idea that we're keeping it a little cool this summer. It's nice. No major heat domes to worry about. Oh, lots of deer on the road though, which we don't like. We don't like these deer around our around the property because these deer like to eat our gardens. You know, it's funny, when I first moved out here, I thought it was the coolest thing having deer wandering all over the place. I thought it was just so beautiful and majestic. And people forget, but when I was growing up, there was no deer. You never saw deer. People would pull over on the side of the road if they saw a deer. Now they've almost become a pest. It's quite funny how what are we doing, guys? There you go. Yep. Stop. Wait for me. Yep. Make more time so I can get behind traffic. I tell you. You know, I find it funny. I'm slowing down and stopping for people to cross the street, and they see me coming and they stop. There's this thing where I don't know if they don't trust that I'm going to stop, or they don't see that I'm stopping, but then they stop ahead of, so that it just takes a longer time. It's one of those things. Sorry. One of those things actually that have always annoyed me, and I try not to be annoyed by it, but it's when people don't realize that there's other things going on around them other than what's going on in their head. People have this, for the most part. I'm not saying everyone. I mean, it's not the majority of people, but there is enough of the population that live this way that affect everybody. And it's when you don't have situational awareness. You aren't aware of what's going on around you. And the reason you're not aware of what's going on around you is there is a sense of, I don't want to say narcissism, but it's a sense that the only thing that's happening that's of any value in your life is what's happening directly to you. There is zero understanding that there's other people who have needs, desires, like, for instance, driving on the road. And I love to use driving as a metaphor for just about all aspects of life, because so much behavior can actually be distilled out of your driving habits. And I actually got into my, not a fight, but a little bit of conversation with my sister about this one time. And I was saying, I can tell a lot about a person by the way they drive their car. And she was like, nope, no you can't, nope, impossible, can't do it. You know, just blocked herself off because she didn't like the fact that somebody was saying that maybe how you drive a car is indicative of your personality type. And she just didn't want to hear it. But the reality is that it very much is indicative of your personality type. I very rarely have I met someone who drove in a way that wasn't in concert with the way they live their lives. Somebody, for myself, this is the way I drive, and this is the way I like to think I drive. I may be wrong, you know, people, because everyone always, no one ever views their driving quite the same as what reality is. But the way I look at it, when I'm driving, I don't care what's going on behind me. All I care about is what's happening in front of me. And I think that's very much about my life too. I don't worry too much about the past because that's not where I live. I worry about the future because that's where I'm going. Ooh, that's a nice car for sale. Ooh, it's pretty. Ooh, check that out. No, don't need more toys. So when I'm driving, I always say to people, I don't care if you cut me off. I don't care if you get in front of me. I don't. Just don't put the brakes on. Don't jump in front of me and then start slowing down. That's something that really does get under my skin. And I find another thing that bothers me is when people are driving and they're driving in a way that, like, for instance, they're in the passing lane and they drive at the same speed as people in the the non-passing lane, the driving lane, the slow lane, I guess is a better word for it. So if you're driving the same speed as the people in the slow lane and you're in the passing lane and you don't have the understanding, the wherewithal to believe that you might be the problem, you might be impeding traffic because you're in a situation where you don't want to go faster than the guy in the slow lane. You don't want to pass him. So what you do is you drive the same speed. And then I've heard this argument from people before. Speed limit's the same in both lanes. The left lane is reserved for passing. So if you're not going to be passing, you should be in the right lane. Left to pass, right to save gas, people. Very simple concept. But again, it's that lack of understanding that there's something else around outside of yourself. It's that, and I'm not saying it's about everyone. I'm just saying I've noticed this behavior. But think about this. We've got all of Victoria. We have all 300,000 people that live outside of Victoria that work inside Victoria. 300,000 people commuting every day on these roads. All it takes is 1, 2, or 3 people that just don't care about anyone else but themselves. They don't care that there's people trying to get home. There's people with desires to get somewhere, to get to their families. They don't care about that. All they care about is, and it's not that they're doing this out of malice. And that's the part that makes me even more upset. It's not out of malice, or even it's this oblivion, this unaware, vapid disconnection from everything else. They complete disassociation from their situation, from what's going on around them. And that's the part that really frustrates me. They don't see, they don't glance in the rearview mirror and say, oh, look, I've got all of Victoria behind me and I'm going slow. Maybe I should pull over so people who want to get by can pass. All it takes is 3 or 4 people like that to slow the whole city down. And it just comes from this and I don't want to say it's a narcissism, because that's not the thing. It might even be a sort of self-deprecating, a low self-esteem that does it. But the inability to look around yourself, look outside yourself, and see what's going on. I think you're not helping yourself, definitely, and you're not helping society. You're not helping anything. I say, take a look around. Look what's going on around. Like, I see this person here, and I see it's just in front of me. They're at my 10:30, my 11 o'clock, and I see that they look like they might want to come in. So I'm slowing down, giving them space. Now they're passing on, so I know, okay, that's not it. It's just this is awareness. And if everyone is aware of what's going on around them, if everyone has this awareness about it, traffic can move so much smoother, so much easier. Like I say, and sometimes people are almost forthright. That's the wrong word about. I'm trying to think of. It's like they use it as a reason to justify, and that they're. They can get angry at you because they're in a position of righteousness, because they are following the rules. And one thing I've learned about life, rules are meant to be there to keep structure. There are times when those rules are you have to break them. And I remember when I was really young, early 20s, I was talking to another guy who was very much about civil disobedience. He was always at the protests, always pushing against authority, because he felt that was his job. He felt that was very much his job. And I said to him, you're doing these things, and it is actually kind of breaking the rules, because they said you're not supposed to do them. And he made an interesting point to me. He said, imagine if you're at a stoplight. The rule is you're not allowed to go past that stoplight if it's red. But if it's red for a minute, you start to question things. Then it's red for 2 minutes. You really start to wonder what's going on. Now you go up to 3 minutes. And now you realize, you know what? I think this light is broken. That's a good time to start bending the rules a little bit. You look, you make sure it's safe, and you break the law of not going through a red light. And you go through a red light. So there is times when it's not just justified, but necessary to break the rules. Not all the time. I say, like, as I say, a default, if you ever wonder, like I always say to people, if you ever really wonder how to live a life, read the Bible, follow the rules of the Bible, and you'll be okay. You'll be fine. You know, don't covet thy neighbor's wife. You know, don't steal from people, don't kill people, and you'll be okay. Be a man of peace, and you can have a good life. But when you get to a level of intelligence and you start to understand that the rules are in place for, you know, the normal situation, there are times where you get into different situations where it's okay to weigh out the options and consider the choices, and then you can break rules a little bit. I'm not saying to make it a regular occurrence, do it all the time. I'm saying it happens. And I think sometimes by following the rules, you can actually put yourself in a precarious situation or a bad situation. But, you know, as a rule, follow the rules. But there is a certain point where rules do need to be looked at and considered. Are these going to help the situation or exacerbate the situation with the rules? And I see it all the time. You know, like light goes red, someone's in the middle of the intersection, and they stop. Because in their brain, they don't want to break the law. But they're in the middle of the intersection. And now they have this, and I see this all the time, they stress out. They're like, oh no, what have I done? I went through the intersection, traffic won't let me get to the other side, and now I'm stuck in the middle. Oh no. And you can see this panic set in because you have two rules that are fighting each other. One, don't block an intersection. Two, don't go through a red light. And now you're sitting there, and I see it all the time. This is where you have to look at things. And you have to stand up and make a decision. And then stand by that decision. But like I say, when it comes to in life, I find, especially when you get to a level of expertise. Now, I'm not referring to driving anymore because I don't think I'm an expert driver. I think I'm a competent driver. I've mastered the art of driving. But I know that most men, especially dudes like myself, tend to over believe that their driving skills are better than they really are. And so I think I'm the best driver in the world, but then again, I think most guys believe that they're the best driver in the world. So I may have a little bit of bias there. But let's talk about anything else. Let's talk about, in my case, magic. When I do magic, I'm at a level now where I break the rules of magic. There are certain things I can do that I would not teach to someone who is new to magic, because there are rules there put in place to guide you, to get you to a level where you can get into that unconscious mastery of something. And if you're still thinking about how each step has to go and where your hands have to be and what your fingers have to do and where your eyesight, where you got to be looking, if you got to still think of all those things, you will actually you're not at that level yet, so you should be following the rules. So what I say is, often, and more often than not, with a lot of things, once you get to that level where you've understood the rules, you understood them well, you have that unconscious mastery of what you're working on, it's at that level when you're not even thinking about the next step, you know, the next move, the next words coming out of your mouth. You're not thinking, it's all just autonomic at a certain point. Then you can start looking at bending the rules and even breaking some. And there's a saying, I heard this from a sailor one time, and she was a competitive sailor. And a lot of people would say, I saw you do this move that is totally against physics. It's how did you make this work? And she looked at the man questioning him and said, at my level, the rules are different. And that, I believe that to be true. I believe that there are certain levels of expertise in everything where the rules change. And this has to do with, I think, just about everything. Like what Warren Buffett does with investing is different than what the rest of us should be doing with investing, because he's at a different level. Before you decide, again, back to my whole thing about the situational awareness, I really think it's important. If you don't have situational awareness right now, if you are very concerned about following the rules and going in a straight path, take a look around and see how that affects other people. Because sometimes you just doing that kind of stuff will affect other people. If you look around, you can find sometimes you can just step out of people's way, just simply like that. Like, you might be impeding someone, and you might just say, hey, you know what, I'm not going fast, I'm not going in a direction that is oh wow, parking lot's getting kind of full already. Ooh. But if you don't have situational awareness, if you're not aware of what's happening around you, and the funny thing is people sometimes who people who actually don't have situational awareness don't realize that they don't have situational awareness, and that's the issue. That is a big issue. So if you are that person who just doesn't have that awareness for whatever reason, try to make a point of looking into that. Look around more. Stop, take a breath, look around, see who's around you, see what's happening, see what how your actions are affecting others. Very important to do that. And I think it's good for the community as a whole, but not only that, if you have really good situational awareness, you actually look like more of a badass. Like, you look kind of like a badass. And that's, I think, is the way, who doesn't want to look like a badass? Take a look around, people. Do what Limp Bizkit said. Take a look around. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching me on YouTube. Make sure you check out financialfreeway23.ca. That's the website where all the good stuff is. And as I always say, spread the word. Spread the good news, because we want the entire world to understand that they have the inalienable right to live a life of their lives, wherever you are in this beautiful world.